Erica's going to introduce our next guest. We're so thrilled to have her joining us today.
Yes, so Alicia Schiro is an industry expert in event production, planning, and management. She specializes in one-of-a-kind corporate events, conferences, galas, and retreats. Her client rosters include A-list clients, celebrities, top athletes, celebrity chefs, Fortune 500 companies. She's been featured in many high-level articles to highlight who she is and what she does. She's the owner and founder of ACID Events, and today she's going to be talking about how events will be now that the pandemic is over. But before I introduce you, she's also going to share how 2020 was her best year yet. Yep, guys, you heard it. Her best year yet in a pandemic. Welcoming Alicia, a friend and a colleague. How are you? I love the background. Same as last time. I love it.
Hey, Erica. I'm so happy to be here with you guys, and hopefully soon in person. It's coming.
Yes.
Thank you for the intro. I should really hire you to do all of my intros. 2020, man, what a year, right?
Totally.
So I was very fortunate to take action quickly. I mean, that's really what I would probably contribute it to. I think I just kind of realized early on that no one was coming to rescue our industry, or really any industry for that matter. So, we just kind of had to adapt and figure it out. And I think one of the things that I did that helped me was kind of reach out to my network right away and see what others were doing and what could we do together. One of the things I would always suggest is, and I think you guys touched on this earlier, partnerships. So I value my partnerships so highly. They're irreplaceable. And those relationships that you bond and form over the years, when something like this happens, you have that network already in place to tap into. And that also helped me with talent, because that is what I did for the virtual experiences. I tapped into that talent that I already had the relationships with and built the experiences around that, which really helped get things off the ground that much more quickly.
Totally. And I think, like we discussed it with Michael, having those relationships probably made it easier for you, as easy as possible during the last year and a half. Are you seeing any types of new trends happening coming out of the pandemic that were different than obviously pre-pandemic?
Right. I think right now what I'm seeing a lot of is social. Social is back full steam ahead. And I think, partly because everyone is so sick of being, stuck home. So they want to get out there and live their life again and, do all the things they couldn't do last year. For example, I mean, venues are booking like crazy as far as talent, photographers, makeup artists. I mean, you can't even book anything right now. It's so crazy. I was trying to find a makeup artist in Denver, zero, like literally no one. And I am relentless when it comes to finding talent. And there is literally, I mean, it's crazy right now, but it's a good crazy. I'm glad to see that people are double booked and overbooked. So that's a good sign. So I definitely see social picking up incrementally. As far as corporate, which is what I specialize in, I think there's still some hesitation to return back to live events for some companies. They so far, the majority of the ones that I work with have not made that giant leap yet. I think come September, things may, start out slowly. And go from there. But yeah, so that's what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah, I mean, we've also, we also focus in corporate, and we're seeing, Q3, Q4, and then a lot of companies that never did this before are doing like retreats and offsite and team bonding community stuff that's taking people together to form those relationships, right? Because none of them really know each other. They've all been working remote. So it'll be interesting to see. And I say this, we talk about this internally and stuff, but I'm sure you think the same way. I think that as we reemerge, it's going to give us as event planners the ability to be creative in ways that we were not allowed to be before, because ultimately we weren't able to do that because it was just set up like almost like a cookie cutter system, right? We knew A, B, and C, but now we're reemerging and there's this opportunity that exists. So it'll be a lot more creative.
So we have
Agree.
some venue owners on the call, and you talked about, some corporations are still not doing live events. So we spoke about this earlier with Elise, the hybrid model. Some people on here might not think that you can do a live event and a virtual event at the same time, or you can do a live event and then do a virtual separate. Can you touch on that and give them some knowledge on that aspect?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing that came out of this, right? Ingenuity. We've all had to adapt and, kind of anticipate what is going to happen next without really knowing, and really become tech savvy. So I think there is a lot that came out of it that's positive in such a way that for a live event, when you're booking a venue, one of the things, that I think helps a planner from a planner perspective is to know that they are capable of doing a hybrid, so to speak, which I would just entail that to be, you can add on an audio visual package in order to live stream the event. So one of the things they might want to think about is having an internal AV company that they can recommend to the planners. So that takes a lot of pressure off of us to have to find someone. But then there's the flip side of that, where some venues have an exclusive with an AV company, which isn't always ideal because sometimes they are more expensive than maybe somebody you've worked with and have a relationship with. So for me personally, I have a couple AV companies that I work with that I do like to bring into venues or wherever I'm doing an event, especially during last year. And now even with virtual, the production, I mean, if these virtual events do not look like you're watching a TV show, no one cares. So, we've had to elevate our virtual events to where the talent is expected to do a rehearsal. They're expected to have full production. So all of these things are now coming into play. So whether you're doing a virtual event or a live event, really nothing's changed. You're just adding on more bells and whistles, which allows the client to expand their audience. And I think right there is the key factor. So if you're going to a venue and that venue can only hold, let's say 100 people, or back, last year they had to reduce that. So in my thought, if the client wants to extend that, that's when you add on the virtual, because now your audience is unlimited. So if they're not comfortable attending in person, they can watch it virtually.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I know a few months ago, we were talking about a virtual event where somebody didn't want to do a run through and then it didn't work out. We talk about being prepared, whether it's a live event or a virtual event. And some people might say, oh, it's just virtual. We just have to hit record. Can you touch on that? How important, I see Raquel smiling and laughing, but I just want to touch on that, the importance of being prepared, not only with events, but with business, because we have some business people on here as well that aren't in events. Talk about being prepared and ready.
Right. I mean, I think planners definitely know what that feels like. You try to anticipate everything. You will dream about it the night before your event, like something will come to you in a dream and you're like, wait a second, did I do that? So yeah, I mean, you can never be prepared enough. So, and that goes the same for virtual. So yeah, I do rehearsals before, whether it's 2 weeks out, a week out prior to the event, whatever that is. So all of that is actually negotiated up front with the talent, knowing that they will have to do that. And some talent will refuse to do it, and then I just won't work with them. There's just too many factors that can go wrong. Like, even if they're saying, I've done 1 million Zooms, if I hear that one more time, it's like, I understand you've done 1 million Zooms, but pretend this is ESPN and you're doing an interview, because for my clients, that's what it is. they're spending a lot of money. And, you know, they want that quality. It has to be a well-produced version of whatever it is, whether it's a talk or maybe we're doing a cooking experience. You know, last year, no one knew if this was going to work. So no, we weren't going to do full production and we weren't going to do all the bells and whistles because it didn't make sense. Now we know this works and it needs to look as if it was a TV show. And that is the reality now that we're in. You know, it's like anything, you're always leveling up, right? You're only as good as your last event. So that's what everybody in this industry understands, right? You're only as good as your last event.
No, it's true, because we were talking, like Cindy and I were talking, and we were saying how it's almost, you know, you're a producer now. You're not necessarily, you're an event planner, but now you're also a producer. You're producing the acts and the sets and the segments, and you know, hosts, like you say, they have to be coming through that screen 150%. The people, we've talked about this, Alicia, like people that you worked with in person does not necessarily mean that they're resonating in this square box, and that's okay. But understanding you have to tweak and you have to adjust, and it really is being a producer and building out the sets and the acts and the scenes and the transition. So it's a whole nother component.
It's a whole other, you know, level of, you know, new nuances that we've never done before. Even coaching the hosts, like you just said, you know, they're not necessarily the talent, but they are driving the event. They're participating, they're interacting with the talent. So they are equally as important. And some of them, you know, are also, you know, they're still working from home. So it's okay, where are you sitting? Are you in your library? Is your light in front of you? Don't sit in front, you know, don't sit with the window, you know, behind you, you know, and all of these things that you learn. You know, I give out full production sheets now. Like, here's your production list of guidelines. So, you know, take a look at this. You know, so we established all of these best practices now for Zoom, which will integrate into hybrid, which will go back into live. So, you know, it's all connected.
And I just want to reiterate something that Alicia just said, and I want everybody to pay attention to this. If you are working with somebody and they say, don't worry, I got it, I've done this a million times, don't take them for that, okay? You know, we've all done a million Zooms, but it's your event and it's your name that your client might not know who's in the back end running things. It's your name and it's your reputation. So if they say, I got it, and you're not comfortable with that, we talked about it with Michael, you could walk away and find somebody that will do that run through with you, because reputation is everything. And like you said, one event could make it or break it.
And it's very true. And sometimes, you know, you're in a weird situation because when you're dealing with celebrity talent, which a lot of what I do is based around that, you know, it's uncomfortable to have to tell their managers that I understand that they've done this a million times, but from my perspective, they haven't done it with my client. I have to communicate with my client wants. And also, like, every client is different. So you have to do it every time. It's not, we've never done anything in the event world that is one and done and repeat. It's just, that's not how this is. Everything is custom. Everything is different. It depends who the audience is, what the goal of the event is, what are you communicating? You know, all of these play in to a well done production.
100%. Could not agree with you more. We deal with that all the time also with the talent. And you know what we've been finding, and maybe this is just because people were cooped up, is that they were more flexible and willing because they had time. And so with time comes some leisure and bonuses that we don't normally get, but 100%. I hope that you guys really heard what Alicia was saying. She shared a ton of really important knowledge. So before we wrap, wanted to ask you final thoughts as a leader in the event industry. What are 3 words that makes a great leader to you that you could share with the audience?
I would say after coming out of this, 100% is adaptability, action, and anticipation. You know, you have to be able to adapt to anything these days, and definitely take action. Do not wait on anyone or anything. Like, doing something is always better than doing nothing. Do your research, but do something. action, and then anticipation, right? I mean, the more you plan and the more you anticipate, the more successful the outcome.
Mhm. No, you're right. And it's a AAA, right? That's what it stands for. So that's awesome. And I know that you're a huge Tony Robbins fan. So you're always about taking motion and keeping going forward. So I just wanted to thank you. It's great seeing your lovely face and being able to catch up a little bit. I can't wait to see you in person.
Thank you, guys. My pleasure.
Give it up for Alicia Schiro, everybody.